Okie doke. Let us see if we are in fact live. I have faith. Nice. Okay, very good.
白岩学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
Okie doke. Good evening. So, I was just watching a stream with some kind of a city worker, and it was great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. It has inspired me to crack open my old Bible and get to reading, which I will not be doing tonight. Rather, I will not be doing that on this stream. Excuse me, it's been a bit of a day. I decided that I was going to go keto, I think November of last year, and I went cold turkey, and it was incredibly difficult. No joke. There's shockingly little to eat in restaurants. Once you go keto, you realize that the vast majority of what is in a restaurant is not food. And I completely fell off that wagon from about February of this year. to approximately 3 weeks ago, maybe a month, I'm not sure. And I decided that I was going to, and what I mean by that is, I would still eat, fries and sushi and so on, but I would do what I can to limit it and keep it down. So it was sort of like, it was keto most of the time in terms of the ingredients, but the thing is that because I was still introducing enough sugar to go back into sugar burning and not stay in fat burning, it was only keto in the sense of the vast majority of the ingredients were sugar free, no fruits, but otherwise, like whatever. Anyway, I decided that I was going to, over the past couple of days, start going back into the appropriate portions and limiting absolutely everything. So the minus side is that, oh my gosh, my body is just all out of whack. But the plus side is diabetes won't be an issue, and weight gain won't be too much of an issue either, so that's a good thing. And I've gotten all the way down. This is a hell of a thing. This is a major breakthrough for me. I'm not even joking. Like, this is actually a big deal for me. My two last holdouts were the things that I knew were kicking me directly back into sugar burning were my glass of wine at night. Usually 2 glasses, so that's gotta cut back. And the other was honey and yogurt. Of all the things, I was able to kick out the fries. I was able to kick out potato chips. I was able to kick out, obviously beer and soda pop. What else? Yeah, just all the things, chili, chips, just, stuff, fruit juice. Oh my god, I love fruit juice. To this day, I still love fruit juice. But I managed to kick all of that out. And the last 2 holdouts, so weird. Freaking honey and wine. So what I've decided to do, actually, I might start getting into cottage cheese. Anyway, the thing that I did in my own head was to resign myself to going down to basically a teaspoon of honey at most per day. And my thought process is I actually do love honey, like genuinely freaking love honey. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to go nuts with it, and I'm only going to eat raw honey. So even though I'm not going to get much of it, it's going to be the best goddamn honey that I can buy. So it's going to be amazing. The little tiny bit of honey that I do allow myself is going to be incredible. So anyhow, today was the first day that I just went directly for plain yogurt with no honey at all. So I'm not trying to pat myself on the back in the sense of, oh yeah, super awesome. No, it's not the case at all. But, little victories. It's the little things that add up. Interestingly, whatever. One of the only things that I think got me to this point was essentially the determination that I was going to ease into it. That sounds really stupid, and because a lot of people, they just go cold turkey and they never look back, and I envy those people. But instead, what I decided to do was build up and create patterns. And what has happened, the only reason that I'm making mention of this is because this might actually be useful to all 2 of you that care. But the thing is that by building up patterns and habits that become daily, like reflexive, over a period of time, it becomes very easy to make a small modification. So my small modification now is to only have honey in the morning, like a teaspoon, and that's it. But that's after 3 months of whittling all the way down, because like in 1 week I gave up chips, and then like a couple of weeks after that I gave up beer, and then a couple of weeks after that I gave up like carrots or something. It's these kinds of things, and over time what ends up happening is you retrain your palate and you retrain all of your habits. So because I'm about to move directly into like straight ahead keto, unfortunately there's going to be a 3 or 4 day period in which once I move over to fat burning, I'm going to feel like hell, and it's going to be weird. And I remember this from when I did this back in November of last year. So I'm going to go through about 3 or 4 days of not feeling all that great. So what I'm doing to compensate for that is I'm going to reduce sugar to bare minimum, and I'm going to allow myself the ability to eat, for example, all of the cheese, cucumbers, and yogurt and olives and nuts that I want, because I love those things. And that should, I think, in terms of dealing with the psychological effects, I think that should make it allowable, permissible. It'll help me along with it. So again, I'm just saying that all of these things are possible once you start building up habits. It's the habits that do it. It really is. It's the habits. Once you create a rhythm and a cycle, they just accrete and they just become their own thing, and you almost don't even need to think about them. Make a tiny modification here, make a tiny modification there, boom, you're good. Anyhow, so that's been my own thing, and right now I weigh an absolutely rotund. I don't want to. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, because like no one really knows what I look like at any rate. At the moment, I weigh approximately 179 pounds, and my favorite weight was back when I was doing cycling and exercising and whatnot, and I was starting to develop really good posture, and I had nice deltoids and the whole nine. It was pretty cool, and I weighed like 167 pounds or something, which is pretty light, but the thing is that I was cycling all the time, so it was really hard to keep any weight on me at all. Anyway, that was a fantastic weight, and I'm hoping to get back to that. So going from 179 back down to, I think I can make the high 160s. I think I'm about 6 feet tall, so I'm not actually fat or anything. It's just that, I'm a little thicker than I want to be, is all I'm saying. So at any rate, it's just a matter of I want to get the muscle mass up. I want to get the fat down. I don't want to have any kind of jiggle. So there you go. At any rate. Okay, so we are now at minute 16. I think this is just as good a time as any to at least crack ye olde book open. Before I do that, though, I'm going to check the chat and just see what's going on. Yeah, Ovi says I'm not fat. It's true. I'm not actually fat. I'm I'm skinny fat. So that my weight. Excuse me. My weight has a tendency to hang out right around like my belly. So like my arms are fine. It's really weird. My arms are okay. My chest is, it's not too bad, but for some reason, like my belly and like my thighs, it's the fucking weirdest thing. They're just a little bit, not like the teensiest paunch. So it's not, yeah, exactly. It's fucking dad bod. I don't want a goddamn dad bod. So this is why I'm so into it, because I'm not able to exercise normally the way that I would like to after about almost a decade of really vigorous cycling. Like my mind is just trained for like going outside. And if I can't, what I used to do is if I couldn't go out for a bike ride, I'd go for a long walk. In fact, that's what I used to do for the majority of my life. and I can't do that kind of stuff at the moment, so I'm substituting right now with push-ups, actually, and light calisthenics. And the idea is that, okay, fine, so I'm not able to do what I would normally want to do, so I'll just do something else. And push-ups are fine. I don't mind them all that much. I kind of miss the endorphin rush that you get once you go into second wind. So I think that the combination of a little bit of building up of muscle and basically elimination of sugars, I think that should do the trick, and I won't have to worry about it anymore. So I'll get right back down to the high 160s, and I'll be a happy person. Not that it matters. Anyhow. Oh, hey, freaking Faustian Spirits here. Hey, buddy. Faustian. Just because you happen to be here and it's so unusual, check Telegram in just a few minutes. Let's see here. What else are we looking at here? Yeah, I guess most of it. Oh, let's see here. Anime girls at boarding school with tank. Riding around in World War II tanks. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Girls und Panzer. That's right. I remember hearing about that. Sounds ridiculous, but okay. Well, if there's good memes that'll come out of it, that's cool. Post memes, buddy. All right, let's see here. Call, check. Yes, and where are we? And there we are. Boom. All right. So anyway, all right. Going to check in on chat one more time. All right, is California on fire yet? No, it's going to happen in the near future. But no, Faustian, check Telegram. Anyhow, so yeah, I was going to crack open my book, but I think I'm going to hold off just for a few moments, just for a couple of moments, to see if let's see here, if you're going to have okay, all right, it's going to turn into a freaking it's going to go one of those. Oh, but I wanted to read a little bit about the book. This is how it starts. Isn't this always how it starts? All right, here we go. Where are we? There we are. Boom. Okay. I'll have to get my trusty ear goggles on. Where are we? All right. How ridiculous. Okay, checking everything once again. There we are. Oh, okay, Faust will be able to hop on in 5 minutes. Well, that's outstanding. Well, but the thing is, let's see here. Well, OOV is saying if I want to read, that's fine. Well, yeah, but if because I rarely get to interact with Faustian Spirit, it's one of those deals where it's like, well, you know, when you don't get to speak with everyone that you want to speak with, you know, whenever you want. You take the opportunity where you can. So that's the thought pattern at any rate. But I want to. Oh my gosh, this is how it starts. Europe Rising. I mean, no offense, but I don't know you that well yet. So I would actually want to speak with you individually as opposed to with groups. So I mean, no offense whatsoever. But yes, let's actually chit chat. I will actually make that a priority. So, at any rate, has Ove shown? No, Ove has not shown. Ove, check freaking Telegram. Let me go to messages too. You can throw one in there as well. So, it's also in Twitter. FYI. So, at any rate, waiting for. I can't believe it. I'm waiting for freaking Ove now. How ridiculous. Okay. All right, whatever. Well, wait a second. There is a wild Faustian Spirit Okay, let me get everything ready. One moment. We are now transitioning. And
Yo.
there we are. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Hey there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We can all hear each other now. This is outstanding. What's going on?
How's it going?
Okay. Hey, ho, what's up? Alright. Well, so I was going to do a stream where I was going to read a little bit about the Purim feast. Are you guys familiar? I mean, I don't want to go into it at the moment because I'd much rather talk about like other things with you guys, but are you guys familiar with the Purim feast at all?
Is that the thing Epstein was into?
No.
Okay.
Purim is... Okay,
It's kind of a traditional Jewish holiday, isn't it?
Yes. I'll give you the briefest possible rundown just so that you understand. It is a festival that's based on this incident that doesn't seem to have any historical basis, but it doesn't matter. Narrative is everything. And it involves a king that had a fellow queen, if that makes any sense, and she was somehow put there by a guy named Mordecai the Jew, and the king had some kind of an advisor named Haman, who apparently Mordecai didn't care for too much because Haman happened to be an Amalekite, and those are very, very bad people according to the Jews. So Mordecai refused to bow to one of the king's advisors, and this caused great consternation to Haman. So Haman somehow managed to draft a decree that all of the Jews would be punished or killed or slaughtered or something like that. And he got the king to sign off on it. And after the king signed off on it, the fellow queen, she was like, this is not good. I don't want my people to... I actually agree with that, by the way, protecting your own people. But she was like, well, let's make this not be the case. And so she somehow exhorted the king to rescind the order. And somehow, through an amazing flipping of things, you can read about it if you want to, the decree was unable to be reversed, and instead a new decree was issued, and the new decree was sent out to the four corners of the kingdom, which was that all the Jews ought to slay their enemies. And on the appointed day, the Jewish people slew, they killed, they murdered, mass murdered 75,000 people. And Purim is based on this turn of good fortune. So, and Purim is one of the two most sacred holidays in the Jewish calendar. So,
Is, if I remember correctly, isn't there a holiday also based around the genocide of the Amalekites? Is that what Purim is, or is that something else that I'm thinking of?
that's something else. I'm sure of it. Because there was an incident with the Amalekites. I think that was in Exodus, and that's a separate issue. Though because Haman was an Amalekite, there is a linkage on some level there. So
Sounds like a bunch of drama.
yeah, big time. Yeah, it's, very much. These are drama queens to the highest degree.
Yeah, Jews are drama queens, definitely.
It's just the way that it works.
Quite literally in this story.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, very much so, yeah. I've grown accustomed to it. I've become very familiar with how these things work now. It's so weird. I guess living your entire life in Los Angeles, this is just what happens. You start to get used to these things.
Has your view on the Juliet Quebecs changed now that you've been reading some of their source material?
Oh, yeah. Miss Juliet is very... she is wearing different garb these days. Yeah. and you may not be as into it as I am, which is fine. I'm completely fine with that, but I'm now thinking that, yeah, actually the early Christianity is actually the direction that I'd want to go. If I was going to go hardline, which God knows I'm just about to. But yeah, pick up a Bible, read Galatians, get red-pilled.
I'm hearing like Beethoven's fifth, the fifth movement in his Ninth Symphony playing like in my head right now. Da, 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 da.
Settle
Okay,
down.
has arrived.
Settle down. Be cool, buddy. Be cool. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know how I'm going to secure a copy of it, but I'm thinking about getting a couple of books by Martin Luther, so we'll see how that goes.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Faust, because I remember Eke's streams were one of the first ones that I watched when I, started getting into the JQ. And I'm like, dude, Eke, why, man? Why you cucking out? Why don't you just want to, start up the roller coaster ride, And he's just like, well, la 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 la. But now Eke's kind of coming around, so I'm glad to be here to witness this evolution.
Well,
of Eke.
it's the way that I do everything is empirical for me. I have to actually experience it in order for it to be meaningful. So
yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
it's the reading rainbow. The more you know, honk honk.
Yeah. I am mildly embarrassed. I used to love that show when I was a kid.
Got a great intro.
Hell yeah, I had a great intro. That intro was fucking awesome. I still remember the theme song for that to this day. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get into your 30s and you realize that Sesame Street is communist brainwashing.
Yeah, I know. That's the only unfortunate thing is that, like, once I started looking into it all, I was like, God damn it. I've been had, man. It sucks. It's such a pain in the ass. But yeah, basically, I am where I am, and in a funny twist, I am where I am actually because of all the things. I don't like mentioning their names too much, but I don't like whatever. We're way past that point now. But yeah, my red pilling actually was because of like Duvid, Luke, and Kyle. Like unironically, like not even a joke.
It's kind of funny because Luke totally pisses me off, to be honest. But like Duvid, I understand the hate that Duvid gets, and I was talking to Josh Neal for the first time in a while, maybe a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how this Jew who shall not be named should not be allowed on streams and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh well. I get it, and like I understand why people feel that way, but I don't know, for whatever reason, Duvid just does not get on my nerves like he seems to get on everyone else's.
Well, he's like, when you are first starting to become aware, that's, I think, when he becomes, I think that's the window of irritation. He doesn't irritate me as much these days. Like I got his number. I know where he's coming from. I got a beat on this guy. Mm-hmm. But back when I thought that he was arguing in good faith, it never occurred to me that he wasn't arguing in good faith. And I think that's one of the things.
You white.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm aware.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think you're probably right. Like, I understand that he's gonna just do the not argue in good faith, if you want to put it that way. And I think that's kind of like why I enjoy talking to him, is because like I want to bring out as much of that as I can to like expose it. You know what I mean? It's
no,
like,
I
all
get
right,
it.
I know where he's gonna go with this, and here, let me set up a little landmine, a little booby trap for him to walk into.
Yeah. Well,
Do you guys think that genes influence arguments?
yes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I find it interesting how some of these quote-unquote academic types, how they view argumentation and discussion in a very like clinical way, and how there's different methods to it, and they'll change their tactics depending on who they're talking to or even what they come across during a conversation. And I've always found this to be an interesting concept, because that idea is basically, I'm going to overcome my own genetic makeup and pretend to be something else, is what that is boiling down to.
Well, I mean, that is their genetic makeup, right? Is to pretend to be something else.
Well, they're not very good at hiding it these days. I think it's because it's become safer for them due to how much they can flex, right? Like
Sure,
their
yeah.
power and authority over a civilization equates to how easy it is for them. And they start getting lax about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. I agree. And yeah, I've realized that, because the way that I think about it is, people, they behave according to their temperament, and their temperament is influenced highly by genes. So, I mean, for example, I am incredibly naive and gullible, and my entire life that was taken advantage of, and it sucks, but this is just the way that it goes. And yeah, like a person, like, all you have to do is just realize what kind of a person I am, realize that I'm always going to be arguing in good faith. Yeah, a person could run circles around me, and they did for decades. So, and all of my argumentation was based on the assumption that if I simply posed a logical argument, a point of view that was clearly elucidated for anyone to see, then I would be taken seriously, and I could even convert someone to my line of thinking. That was honestly what I thought. That was honestly how I believed things worked.
You wait.
Yeah, you white.
Yeah, I'm painfully aware of how ridiculous that sounds now, but that's the way that I was, for most of my life.
Have you ever shoveled shit?
Well, yeah, actually I have. Yes, I have.
Okay, so you know how it's like right before you start, it's like disgusting, your gag reflex, it's like you don't even want to like look at what you're doing. And you go in there and you scoop that up and you throw it.
Wait, what kind of shit are we talking about? Are we talking like horse manure, or like because different shit is different.
Look, dude, I don't want to focus so much on this scatological element here. Okay, it's about getting used to your disgust response, right?
Yeah.
And you get to the point where it just becomes another chore, so to speak. Like, you get used to it. And
yeah,
in many ways, I feel like I don't hear any new arguments from these folks anymore. It's all like, yeah, they change the words around, right? But the system that they are using, they haven't really updated it in a while. And it's working on fewer and fewer people, is what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the. Um, I mean, yeah, you could put it as the law of diminishing returns, but then also there's the kind of whole paradigm that they're going after, right? This whole cultural Marxist, postmodernist, kind of idea where there's the oppressors and the oppressed, and so on and so forth. And now what's happening is that these minorities are taking that ball and running with it, and they're applying it to their own individual circumstances, right? You got the people like Kevin De Leon trying to run against Feinstein, and you get Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, and things like this. I mean, you could even look at someone like Louis Farrakhan in this kind of light. They've taken what the Jews have laid before them, and are now applying it to their own particular social circumstances. And something now that that's biting the Jew in their asses, by giving these minorities this power that they had.
Yeah, but the issue with that, as far as I can tell, is that they don't seem to understand that or appreciate that the guilt tripping only works on one demographic, the gullible ones, mine.
I think it comes down to their priorities, because from what I understand is if they view something as bad for white people, then it is automatically, by default, good for the Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the Jew is a fucking idiot.
Okay, but the thing is, though, what I'm going for is the Holocaust classes that are popping up in like Florida or whatever, and other places. Broward County, I'm sure that's the specific one. Anyway, for reasons. But yeah, like they're trying to play the victim card to groups of people that don't give a crap. So that's going to end up being a major issue. I think that's already happening, because I've been hearing so much about the anti-Semitism rampant within the Democratic Party. I mean, I've been reading articles about that, and they're really pissed off about that. Rather, they're making hay about it. I don't know how pissed off they are, but they're making hay about it.
Yeah, they say the same thing about the Labour Party in Britain.
Yeah. So what's happening is their purse puppies are starting to snap. And I think that's going to be a big motif.
If shitholes are getting created, and that's causing these people to want to leave, and they cannot recognize their role in creating the shitholes, what can we even do about that?
I wonder, when you say they, you're talking about the Jews, you mean?
Well, unfortunately, it's not exclusive to them, but they are overrepresented as usual. But yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's an interesting point that you bring up, because I think that they actually do know that they're creating shitholes, and they're doing it on purpose. We've seen how many rabbis have come out and said, "Hey, man, there's too much anti-Semitism in this European country or that European country," and Jews, they started moving, doing Aliyah, back to Israel or whatever. And I think that's part of. I'll give them that much credit. Like I think that's part of the plan, right? Is to create shitholes in Europe, so that they'll move back to Israel, and then they can fulfill their, I don't know, like third temple kind of prophecy kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, they think that, okay, so that's actually a topic that has been on my mind for the past little while. And interestingly, there is a city worker, plumbing or something, that was just talking about that earlier. And the long and the short of it is that the first and second temples having been destroyed, and the perfect being, Jesus, having come about, that's the end. There is now a completely new pact with God, a new covenant, hence the New Testament. And the Pharisees, they're of the opinion that no, we're going to make a new temple, and we will bring about the Messiah. The other one was a false Messiah. And once you put everything into that perspective, then suddenly there's actually a lot of decision making that makes a lot of sense. What I mean by that is, look at how things are being managed right now. And I think that's a slightly longer conversation than just, where we are right now. But I'm laying it out as a thing that you may want to think about in the future. Third temple. No. That's actually what they're going for, because they want to bring about the Messianic age. They think that they are going to be the ones that bring about the real Messiah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I think and that's why when we hear someone like Sheldon Adelson talking about how, it's a problem that these liberal Jews in America are marrying out and kind of like diluting the pure vampiric blood.
Oh yeah, I like the vampire motif. Because I like novels, and I'm not talking about anything other than just vampires, just so we're on the same page. Okay, continuing.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Bram Stoker is one of my favorite authors.
When we hear people like that speaking out about how American Jews are marrying out, and this is causing problems for Jewish culture. It makes perfect sense, because I think at the end of the day, any kind of more traditional Jew wants every Jew to go back to Israel, and then they once we're all familiar with the Samson option, right? They. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they, if there was a level of seriousness to that Samson option. I could be wrong, but I think they would feel they have more leverage over the world if they don't have Jews scattered all throughout the world, right? They could make much more rash, strategic decisions if all the Jews were kind of in the underground bunker that is Israel.
Well, I think the direction they're going is just straight ahead biblical prophecy. And according to the biblical prophecy, there's supposed to be a great war between basically Japheth and Ishmael.
Okay, so what happens if they get the One Ring before all the Jews come home? Is it required that every single genetic, Ashkenazi or whatever they're defining it as now?
No.
Do they all have to be there before?
No, I don't think
they
so.
can plug the power cord in?
I think there needs to be a critical mass, and I think that's all that's necessary. Remembering that these, in the deepest circles, these people are fundamentally secular, and they believe that they are God. So, it's possible to view the human bodies themselves as being mere material that may be sacrificed for the greater good.
Do we really care how they rationalize it to one another? Does that matter?
Yes, only from the standpoint of strategic thinking.
Well, we can understand what they think and also not give a shit about it, right?
Yeah, no, that's completely the case. All I'm saying is that in order to, because if you're going to make decisions based on, for example, the idea that every one of them needs to be back in Transylvania, then that's a different decision than assuming that not all of them need to be in Transylvania. If they are willing to initiate their plans before all of them are in Transylvania, and you're gambling and banking on they all need to be in Transylvania, then they're going to initiate their plans, and that's going to fuck up your plans. So all I'm saying is
plans are funny, man. Plans are a funny thing.
No, I understand, but my point is simply that you will be able to engage in counter decision making relative to their plans, in terms of like. No, okay, no, I understand that actually that makes you subservient to their plans if you think in those terms, and I do understand that. Just so we're on the same page. I'm only talking about specific attacks.
Do you accept the narrative that they are controlling the tempo of things to come?
I accept that they are trying to, and that they are attempting to force things.
Do they have more ability to influence outcomes or less than, like, racially conscious white people, for instance?
Or
Japanese, or, pick one, really. Are they at the top of the hierarchy?
I would say it depends on who you're talking about. Like what groups, groups within groups. If we're talking about absolute, because the thing, it's like, there are some of them.
Talking about bankers that can destroy nations.
Yeah, bankers that can destroy nations. They literally have billions of dollars. They are funding quote-unquote grassroots groups right now. So I think default they have more ability to influence things than me. So
international coordinated lawfare.
Yeah, that's what's going on right now. I mean, that's what I see at the moment.
Man, I think about this a lot, man. Is that really the superior strategy? Because it seems to me like a lot more enemies are getting created than allies. Yeah. And the allies that they do have seem, at least to me, seem to be decaying, aging, and the new recruits that they have are hilarious. If you think those people can bully or intimidate or scheme, So I'm not so sure that they have the superior strategy ultimately. What's the end result?
No. I'm not talking about strategy. You said power, the ability to influence. That's different from a strategy. So I'm talking, when you say the ability to influence, I'm referring to resources and assets. At the moment they have superior resources and assets. That's not to say that their strategy is good, because I completely concur. Fact of the matter is, see, I just cribbed fucking Kyle, god damn it. Anyway,
Did you see him?
How tall is Kyle?
Oh, god damn it. I can't. Anyway, but no, the
Kyle I know, he's about this tall.
I went from being completely neutral, consciously neutral, intentionally neutral, to picking a side. So, and I used to be basically a blue-pilled normie. I would have been one of those who's like, yeah, sure, fine, send money to Israel, I don't care. How dare you be an anti-Semite? How dare you be a racist? And so on. It's come all the way to flipping me to picking a side. Now, a lot of people have said you should not be using yourself as an example because you are not the standard, you are the exception to the rule. And I kind of agree with that on a certain level, but the thing is that, like, I mean, my gosh, even Owen freaking Benjamin is streaming about this stuff now. Like, there's this, there are a couple of threads on 4chan recently. I still go to 4chan. Anyway, there were a couple of threads on 4chan recently where they were talking about Generation Zyklon, and they just posted a bunch of stuff about like mothers and teachers and parents of young kids, Generation Z, that were woke, like woke. And they were getting upset because some of these kids, they were putting up, I forgot what, but some identitarian group in Germany. They were tagging and spray painting identitarian logos on the school. So, I mean, I'm a latecomer to this party, but it seems as though the party is actually growing right now.
There was a lot of early bloomers in the 2015-2016 cycle. Certainly, I find this interesting, man, because I was pretty involved in the Ron Paul stuff back in 2007, 2008. And we did quite a few money bombs, like $10 million in one day, 5 million, 6 million. I mean, shit went off the chain with Ron Paul, but I did not notice nearly as many people in the real world. I think it has to do with how many people were using the internet back in 2007 versus 2016. I think it's a pretty significant jump. Plus all the the people who were like teenagers during the Ron Paul years and like weren't really aware of politics or like what a neoconservative was or anything. A lot of them I think got a big dose of reality during the with all like the open calls for like death and violence caught on video, attempted murders, explosives flying around, and people's houses getting broken into, like all kinds of crazy shit going down. And what are the police doing? Who are they going after?
I know.
What's all this censorship about? Hey, whoa. I think it really red pilled people pretty hard, man. Imagine thinking you're a normal Republican and then getting hit in the side of the head with a brick.
Mm-hmm.
And being called a Nazi.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wonder, though, if it's... Well, I don't want to say too little too late, but I mean... even Republicans still today are not... They're not... I mean, they refuse to engage with the racial aspect of things, right? And I think, and until Republicans are willing to engage with that, which, I mean, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is that as soon as you engage with racial politics in a pro-white sense, it doesn't matter what you actually believe. You're just a Nazi at that point, right? So it's, I mean...
Well, come on, look at your background, buddy.
my background?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if your camera was on the flag, that's all. Anyway.
But it's...
I'm just messing with you. It's funny as all. It's just a joke. I don't care.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's... Right. Okay, so... Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Yeah, look at your background. What? You've got like a German ancestor?
Yeah.
This or that, well, even if you don't call yourself, a National Socialist or a Nazi or whatever, you're just hiding it, and I don't know. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place to where we need to recognize racial politics in a pro-white sense, but as soon as we do that, then there's no thin line between being pro-white versus being a Nazi, quote unquote, right? And when I say a Nazi, I mean like a Nazi in the kind of like the leftist sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
really, what they're trying to do is prevent all of the built-up rage, and they're doing a piss poor job of it.
Well, they're just stoking more anger. I mean,
Yeah, they're pissing more people off every
the
time. You know?
Anderson Cooper was trying to play damage control like yesterday or so, and he was saying that whites are going, or there's a shifting demographic. Whites are going to be the minority, and he struggled to suppress a smile. He said, "This is an exciting time. I mean," and once he said, "I mean," he cracked a smile and he couldn't help it. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, the only thing that did was make my scalp tingle with anger. That's the only thing it did. So even when they play damage control, all they're doing is, and this ties a little bit back to that whole thing with Faustian Spirit asking if they have superior power to affect situations. Yes, they have resources, but their strategy is shit. So there's going to be an incredible amount of blowback, and I agree that the idea of them trying to suppress, it's like one of my favorite analogies I heard from David Icke. He was saying something about how if you try to push a beach ball in a swimming pool under the water line, it just wants to come back up all the more. The harder you push, the further down it goes, the more it wants to come back up. And at the moment, the beach ball is pretty fucking far down. I think when it breaches, it's going to be spectacular.
Well, and then it's like, I don't think anybody wants super messy outcomes.
No,
I
I don't.
Maybe,
I don't. No, I want
maybe
out. I want out.
Maybe some people want to see criminals be punished, you know? I think that's fine, to be honest. All these, like, the Epstein types, man. Like, the justice needs to be had, dude. How can we ever look at our people in the eye if we allow their rapists and murderers to just roam around?
That's, it's funny that you bring that up, because the other day I was on a stream, and I was accused of complaining about Jews. Like, oh, if I forget how exactly it came up, but so basically I was accused of complaining about Jews, like, you think that they're this or they're that, you're just complaining about them. It's just like, and you bring up exactly the example that I use. I mean, is it complaining about someone if you're calling out a murderer, a thief, a rapist in your society? Is that really complaining, or is that trying to bring your society back to normalcy? And
do you know what happens when a dog bites a kid?
Oh, the dog gets put down.
Based.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and we call that animal rights.
Yeah.
Because we don't put it down before it bites. And there are people who try to make the arguments that because it is a threat, even though it hasn't bitten, it's sane and rational to not want to keep them around your kids. Such as bears or moose, who kill more people than rifles, by the way. So I think there's an interesting thing that is going to start happening, which is racially conscious white politics is already it's attempted to be steered by these folks, to lead the opposition, so to speak. And so far, they have been able to keep that beach ball down, but I do think their grip is slipping. You can't go, like, it's against our sensibilities, in my opinion, to try people in public without a jury, without any ability to represent yourself, which is what our Congress is proactively doing. So they're creating a situation where I think we can make the case for racially conscious white political positions and enact them essentially in the real world. And like freedom of association or right to bear arms type stuff. And I think there are enough fault lines, enough pressure points that have built up for so long that there are going to be some dams that break.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because because you must have seen, I'm sure the both of you would be much more familiar than myself. There are those charts that show support for the various parties in Germany back in like 1930 or whatever, charted for like a decade, plus minus. And it's like, well, sooner or later, people are going to get so pissed off that they're just going to snap. And because in my opinion, we are in a more dire position than they were 100 years ago.
Yes, we are.
And so my concern is that there will be, because I would prefer, in all honesty, I would prefer that we have a structured and directed response as opposed to an unstructured and non-directed response. As we all know, those who have a slight mental instability will be very likely, as we've seen with even a couple of these shootings recently, those who have a slight mental instability, they will do things without direction and orders from other people. And I would much prefer that be minimized, mitigated, so that there can be a reasoned response. That's really what I want, and I don't see anything like that right now. That's actually my main concern at the moment, is a lack of coordination and comprehension of the problem by some group.
It might not matter. It might not matter, the lack of coordination. Obviously, it's ideal, but these are uncertain times. And I think just due to sheer population numbers, man, it's like, how many white people exist on the planet? Is it like 500 million? I've seen numbers of 350 million in total. I've seen upwards of 550 million. So regardless, even if it's on the low end, we still outnumber them like, what, 220 something to 1? Like,
well, wait.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking about vampires. I'm also talking about there's Saracens wandering around, you know. And then here in America, we've got a huge population of Mayans, and they've been trained since birth to hate us. So there are a lot of facets to this problem.
Okay, so you think that the other non-white populations in America are going to escalate their violence against whites?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think that coming back to the idea of crazies and fringe weirdos, I think that they are being given carte blanche, and until there is a decisive response to that, that's just going to increase in intensity and in frequency. So I think there's going to be, on the outer edges, on the fringes, I think there's going to be more, yes. Not unlike Europe, Malmo, London.
Right, but here's kind of the thing with that is that I've had this conversation a few times. People are always saying that, what, you think there's going to be like a secession 2.0? You know, the government's going to come down and crack down on you. But when you think about it, right, you know, when basically 85-90% of all frontline troops are basically white, you know, conservative people, and if we do continue this whole balkanization concept of moving to places where it's a super majority of white people, and kind of shoring up, consolidating our power there, and shoring up, circling the wagons, so to speak. In the future, I mean, the minorities like the blacks or the Mexicans, they are only really aware of, they're like horses with blinders on, right? They can only see like basically straight in front of them. What their focus is being directed at. So sure, yeah, if you're living in California or Florida or Texas in the future, where these demographics continue to shift, yeah, you will see more violence against white people. But I think that if we kind of move and create these enclaves in these, super majority white areas, I mean, I cannot imagine a Mexican American army, like going into Idaho or Montana or Wyoming or the Dakotas, and like putting down some sort of secessionist kind of yeah, I wouldn't even say revolt or rebellion, just some sort of like, we're gonna fuck off and do our own thing.
Yeah.
I don't really see any kind of offensive operation against states that did that.
So how long is it going to take for blue-pilled normie whites to realize they don't want their 85-year-old grandmother to get raped by a bunch of blacks or Mexicans, who are vastly overrepresented in senior citizen rape? Also the murder, the crime, etc. Like, do you really want to grow old around a bunch of, like, drug addicts and vagrants and criminals and degenerates? Like, no,
This is
fuck
actually, I think, a major thing that people need to talk about a little bit more, because I had a little tiny stint in a hospital a couple years back, and there was a brief period of time when, and I was in a hospital room. It's important to understand the context. I was in a hospital room and I was unable to move about and do things. I was, for all intents and purposes, I was an invalid, and I was being cared for by a person. I could see it in his eyes. He did not like me in the least, no matter how much I tried to engage in conversation. And it's like, well, when you are that vulnerable, it marks you. That was one of my little red pill experiences, by the way. Yeah, I actually do think that this does need to be highlighted, because I've seen so many. Wait, is the stream still going, by the way?
I just got a chat disconnected.
Yeah, I got that too. That's weird. I'm refreshing.
Not I.
Yeah,
Weird.
mine says disconnected, so.
Oh, it might be our fucking Californian internet. Oh, the live, yeah, stream just went offline for me.
Oh, yeah, same. Refresh, live stream offline. People are saying F in chat. Womp womp.
Well, shit.
I think it's a Californian internet thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. It just connected back to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure the stream will probably come up in a second.
It says end stream now, which suggests that it's reconnected. So it might be on my end. It says stream resumed now. So.
Oh, yeah, we're back.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. This happened to me like a day or two ago. I think it was last night, where my stream just suddenly bounced for no reason. Weird.
Huh. A sign of things to come, I hope.
Yeah, Mexicali internet, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know those brownouts? Yeah, brownouts, you're gonna get it a lot browner. Yeah.
Do you think white people would tolerate having power for 23 and a half hours a day?
Oh wow.
What about 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like kind of the thing, right? Is that dude, when we're talking about like the Mexican um like, the browning of America. I mean, these people come from places where they're used to having no electricity, for what, 16 hours a day or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then when we talk about, having this kind of balkanization kind of concept where, white people just move off and fuck off and do their own thing. Like, dude, these Mexicans are just going to be, so busy worrying about, if their own plumbing is even working or not, to even be worried about going on an offensive, to invade Wyoming, to invade Montana. It's just like, no, come on, forget it. I mean, even if they did, like, they're not going to win against these like hardened veterans, these hardened white
Well, but that doesn't
conservative
matter.
veterans that are living there.
But that doesn't matter. And the reason that doesn't matter is because this is not an invasion in the sense that you're talking about, where there are people with guns. This is infinitely worse. This is an unarmed invasion. The problem is that we don't have an immune response. We could liken this to AIDS, where a common cold, something that's not even terribly impressive or exotic, is enough to destroy a host if it doesn't have an immune response. Our problem is that we don't have an immune response. That's the big problem.
True, and I think that's kind of getting back to what Faust is talking about. Saving the 85-year-old grandmother from the black nurse at the retirement home or whatever. Yeah, that is a problem, right? And that, I mean, that's also getting back to what I was saying, is that the things are not going to get better until white people start actually embracing racial politics. So at the very least, I think that's what we need to be focusing on.
I'm really excited for the census. I have high hopes for a couple of key spots in the country, and expected expected results for other parts. It's gonna take a while, unfortunately, for the census data to trickle out. I believe it's not even. I think actually the census will be published 2 weeks after the presidential inauguration, if I recall correctly. So they're going to be, the census is off the table as far as its results influencing this election cycle, unfortunately. But that's by design, by the way.
Yeah, Citizen Reporter in chat says, we need to get our government under control first before racial politics. I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' perspective, especially you, Faust. But, I mean, to me, I think getting the government under control is too little too late. I mean, Florida is going blue. Texas is going blue. Once that happens, we're never going to see, a white Republican government, in charge again. So, I mean, yeah, this is something that I've actually come kind of around the block on, where when I first got here, I was all about white manifest destiny. We just need to have an Operation Wetback 2.0. And kick out all the Mexicans, kick out anyone who got citizenship after 1965, and then everything will be good. And I actually had a debate with Billy Roper about that. And if for anyone who knows who Billy Roper is, he's pretty hardcore in the opposite direction. He's pretty pretty insistent on the whole balkanization idea. And the more that I've kind of engaged with these kind of topics, the more that I see that that is the more realistic option, is the balkanization, moving to places where white people are living, and white people, even if they're not racially inclined, there are topics like welfare, or topics like undocumented immigration, right, or illegal immigration, whatever you want to call it. Those are dog whistles for racial politics, and those are kind of the areas that we need to focus on more, to lead us into the racial politics of the future.
Well, if borders mattered, okay, borders mattered, there would be, I mean, it would already be bad, right? So clearly white people are willing to tolerate open borders. Like there's just complaining, but
Well,
that's like a child
left-wing white
whining.
people are. Sure, left-wing white people are.
Well, even
Well,
the right
actually,
wing,
I
all
don't
they do
know.
is
I mean,
whine, really.
I'm gonna, to be
I'm
honest.
talking about millions and millions of people who do nothing about it.
Well, because they do nothing. These are the people who. When you say do nothing, what do you mean by that? First off, I guess.
Like, there's always small examples of, like, the Minutemen or some of the militia groups that go around and citizen detain some illegals and turn them into ICE, and then, they just let them in. Basically, ICE just lets them in.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really,
Yeah.
that bothers me no end, because that's like, it's a giant show of force, but ultimately it's meaningless. It's completely meaningless, because this is what I keep talking about, the immune response. It looks like an immune response, but it's not, and it's a waste of energy. It's terrible.
Right, so how much are you willing to cuck? If, like, your daughter gets gang raped and killed by a bunch of blacks or Mexicans, are you gonna do you trust the black and Mexican police officers to pursue? Or even the whites that are totally cucked? Like, you, by default, it's mandatory. Your cucking is required, essentially. You must cuck to the government, you must cuck to the authorities, you must cuck to the institutions, you must cuck to the corporations, no matter what. No matter what atrocity is committed against you, you must cuck. And unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of white people in this country will cuck automatically.
To be honest, Faust, you sound a little bit more cynical than usual. I mean, usually you're a little bit more optimistic than this.
Well, what we need is for them to cuck to us. To racially conscious white people with the fucking spine that have the best interests of our neighbors' children in mind. Right? Like other white people who we do not even know. Those should be a higher priority than any other group, any other category, whatever you want to call it.
Well, so here, let me put this another way. When you talk about people who, quote unquote, aren't doing anything,
yeah, about 80%, 80%
yeah,
of it.
Right? Sure. Yeah, they're not going to the border and doing citizen arrests or anything like that. But it seems that even in some of these mainstream media polls that they do, as long as things aren't framed in, quote unquote Nazi terms, people seem to agree with the, less immigration, assimilation. I mean, at the very least, right? Assimilation, which is becoming more and more rare nowadays. But
Dude, they've had like what, over 400 years, and they have not assimilated.
No, right? I know. I'm not arguing that point, but people, people don't live for 400 years, right? People only live in the time frame that they're born into, and I think that as things get worse, right, as the brownouts get browner, as California and Texas, I mean, it's Texas and Florida especially, become more and more minority dominated.
Michigan as well.
Yeah, and these places just become more and more third world shitholes. That is going to be enough for white people to kind of realize what the hell is going on. I mean, maybe I'm being optimistic, but
Well,
I mean that's.
I think if we're being proactive about advocating and pursuing the interests of white Americans, by us, for us, of us, that kind of stuff. Being proactive is always good, right? It doesn't, even if we're running out of time, it's like better to be proactive than reactive or inactive.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that point at all.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just more speaking to the question in general of, racial consciousness versus taking control of our government. It's like, to me, it's a chicken and the egg. It's like having one without the other serves no purpose.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is that for most of America's history, it was very racial conscious. It was, and the government was working in that interest, right? It was basically only until, well, I mean, I guess we could quibble over the dates, but
I say the start of the Civil War, 1861. Fort Sumter was the beginning of the end.
Sure, yeah. And then, I mean, maybe the 1965 Immigration Act is kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. But yeah, it's
just deeper penetration by that point, dude.
Sure, yeah, it's going balls deep at that point, right?
Oh man,
that's a great moment for me to just take a brief break. I'm gonna give the mic over to you guys, so I'll be back in just a few minutes. AFK BRB.
I'm gonna grab a glass of water as well, but
oh,
I'm
gosh
sure,
darn,
dude, everyone
go
forward to a Faustian monologue first. So
oh my God, no, I can't do that. I'm not gonna.
No, you guys go. You can go away. That's fine.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Well then, Faust, you've got the mic. Okay.
I'll pull up the Spur chat and see what's going on in there. I should say hello to everyone. Hello, Will. Hello, Tom. Hello, Rich. Texas Busted. Citizen Reporter. Or Harsh Reality. Got Will. Got Barbie. Got Goose Bear. Good evening, everyone. Did you guys see that link that I posted about affirmative action in Washington State? Highly recommended. Something worth keeping an eye on. Interesting enough about it. What's up, Silver Screen? Jonathan, no Spurks here. Yes, hello, my fellow blue-pilled normies. Yeah. There's a lot of fault lines that are or wedge issues, or hot button topics, or third rails, or whatever you want to call it, in the culture and political war that are heating up. I would say on a local level, but a lot of it applies statewide. A wave of reaffirming the Second Amendment on the state level, essentially the battle over states' rights in the legislative process, like your state representatives or state congressmen, depending if you're bi or mono Congress. And unfortunately, maybe it's just my pet peeve or my oddball interest or whatever, but I do take great interest in the goings on in internal state politics, not just in my own state, but the states around me. And over in Washington in particular, there's a battle going on over affirmative action. And I think this could blow up, especially the timing of it all. There's a signature gathering campaign underway to repeal for the second time by ballot initiative the concept of affirmative action. Except, so in 1998, Washington State, through the ballot, banned affirmative action. And like within the state level institutions, anything receiving government money wasn't allowed to use affirmative action. Right. And this was in 98. I think it had like 63% of the vote, something like that. Well, in typical fashion, a fellow white former legislator in the Washington Senate, he, after retiring, drafted a piece of legislation with the help of a couple of locally based think tanks, with an overrepresentation of you-know-whos. They crafted a piece of legislation in a way that could be added in subcommittee to an omnibus bill that would essentially reinstate affirmative action. But not only that. Okay, so it's not like they were just going to settle for reinstating affirmative action. Oh no. They want to create grand inquisitors as well and install essentially a separate office with fresh staff and the money to go for it, to pay for it, to virtually every level of the state government, to have a diversity and inclusion council in relevant agencies and their little investigators, minorities essentially, that they hire to persecute out people who do not conform to the pedo left ideology. And so this was signed into law, unfortunately, and there was a signature gathering campaign a few months back to essentially pass Proposition 88 in Washington State. And Proposition 88 is a repeal of the specific language, essentially just deleting the affirmative action segment out of the law, to basically repeal affirmative action again for the second time 21 years later. Now, what's interesting about this campaign is that because white racially conscious advocacy groups are technically illegal, I think. I'm not sure about the specifics. Regardless, if you create one, you get attacked, etc. It's not a tool we can use at the moment effectively. However, the Asians, the Asians in Washington State have racially conscious advocacy groups, political action committees, nonprofits, businesses, you name it. And it is from these Asian groups that essentially have spearheaded the signature gathering campaign to get Proposition 88 to qualify for the ballot in the next general election. And so it's battles like these that can escalate very, very quickly. What happens when you have people going around gathering signatures in hostile territory for something that these people violently oppose? There are inevitable outcomes that happen here. And it is my hope that these political pressure points alert enough intelligent, capable white people fast enough to make the appropriate decisions for the safety of their family. That's my hope, is that essentially we start congregating. And from what I'm hearing, okay, there are many counties and various states that are majority white, as is, where the net population gain goes up in the white percentage and down in the non-white percentage, meaning non-whites are leaving counties and whites are moving there. And I am interested in, if anybody hears of any cases of this happening, probably going to have to repeat this quite a bit, but if anyone hears of any counties that are gaining in whites and losing in non-whites, including Jews, I would be very interested to know where that is so that I can look at the reasons why. And this is why I say that racial consciousness for white people is in many ways synonymous with taking our government back, or vice versa, or, which one's the cart, which one's the horse. I don't think it's that black and white, to be honest. I think that it's a convalescence of a great many things. We see this time and time again in grassroots campaigns where an incident occurs that causes public outrage that then gets further compounded by the agendas of the people within government, that causes more and more people to wake up to getting fucked, and that's when things start changing. That doesn't always mean it's for the better. And we've seen this process be heavily studied and dissected and implemented by the left in and of itself. Occupy Wall Street, the Tea Party movement, okay, after after they Jewed Ron Paul out of the primaries. That's when the Tea Party started, which was a neoconservative operation, not by the people. So be wary, be mindful, but keep an eye out for what's going on. And I hear you're back.
So hey buddy, how you doing?
Yeah. What's up?
Sorry, my cat was being fluffy, and then I sneezed and I startled her, and that's why I'm back now. Okay, moving on.
Wow, that was like a 3-act play.
That's right. Yeah, my life is pretty fucking intense. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
It's intense being a cat dad, right?
Yeah, I gotta get a fucking wife, dude. I swear to God.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking to Pat, I believe, the other day, and we came up with an acronym for CAT, which is Critical Aryan Theory.
What? What is it? What is it? What's that all about? I want to hear about that, whatever that is.
Well, like the concepts of postmodernism and intersectionality and, that whole smorgasbord of cultural Marxism or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Well, the tools that they've used to take power, they are effective at taking power when something is already there, right? Like they are designed to subvert, infiltrate, etc., to study another system and then figure out how to use it to their benefit. Right?
Okay.
This means that because they are not creating systems, they can only take what has already been discovered. That means that the tools that they use can be turned against them. And we can start applying the same methodology to their tactic as we can to, like, you know, it's a keto move or whatever. We turn their bullshit back around on them.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm a
critical
huge
Aryan
fan of that. Huge fan.
Critical Aryan theory would be, you know, you guys are victimizing whites. You know, there's no such thing as like white people can't rape minorities because minorities have power over white people, right? Like these kind of arguments, as absurd and insane as they are, you know, that they can be used to create hysteria, essentially. And
can you give an example of how that might be applied to, say, the current news cycle? We'll say the gun control thing that's being pushed. Can you think of a way that we could apply that?
Donald Trump did it, okay?
How?
He said that Cuomo guy should get his gun rights taken away because he chimped out, basically.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like, Chris Cuomo should be red flagged. Okay. If college students are in a university, that means by default they have more institutional power than, say, someone working at Walmart. So anytime you take the fight to them, as it were, using their language and their concepts, and then inverting their inversion, it does cause them to get upset. We see it time and time again, man.
Okay.
And in my opinion, whoever chimps out first loses.
You rage, you lose. Them's PewDiePie rules.
Right. The mask slips, man.
Well, that thing of you rage, you lose, that only works for us. That doesn't seem to work for SJWs. They love raging. For them, their rules are actually you rage, you win. So I don't know how one would overcome that.
Well, okay, so if it only works for us, like, aren't white people our highest priority target? Isn't catering our concepts, our interactions, shifting outcomes towards our interests rather than our opponents?
Well, no, I agree. The idea is to take into account
okay, can I step in here? There's a comment in chat that I think Faust would want to respond to. I think all of us would want to respond to. This is from Daniel Spurgowitz. He says Faust should stop promoting the J notion of postmodernity by suggesting what postmodernity, quote unquote, is, i.e., quote unquote, cultural Marxist. In its proper form, it is not, quote unquote, cultural Marxist.
Daniel, yes, I understand. I understand. It's a fucking joke, dude. It's Cat Gang. Like, it's just a joke, man. I personally do not find the tactics and strategies of these people to be compelling in the least bit, or effective for that matter.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was thinking about. I just realized a little bit.
I think you misunderstood what the comment said. Maybe
yeah,
Daniel.
Dude, I had a very autistic conversation with Daniel about this. He's saying that the postmodernists, that the way the cultural Marxists are using postmodernism is not the way that postmodernism was intended, right? Like, we make the same argument about the Constitution, the founding of America all the time. Like, I'm familiar. Familiar with his argument. It's very autistic. It's totally fine. No worries.
Oh,
It's just a joke, Daniel.
We're splitting hairs between cultural Marxism and postmodernism. All right. I mean, it's.
Okay, so now we're back directly into the Sixth Crusade. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm kind of curious about that. Like, so what? if we're looking at, I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny because I was always a big fan of Nietzsche growing up, like in college and things like this, and the concept of the Übermensch and blah 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 blah. But he also had the idea of the quote that he had was, "There are no facts, there's only interpretations," and that, I think, basically that one quote became it became a foundation for postmodernity, right? Or for the postmodern thought.
Yes. Yeah.
And but I mean, to like say that there's a difference between being postmodern and culturally Marxist.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not.
Whoa. Listen,
Sure.
man, I think it is a worthwhile effort to make the distinction between liberals and the left, which Daniel, to his credit, is very autistic about.
Mm-hmm.
But I do,
Daniel is very autistic, yes.
The elements of third position philosophy have plenty of room for even the most pause version of liberals or the left. Okay. Like the concepts of environmentalism, egalitarian amongst whites, like equal rights under the law, that kind of stuff. White unionization, these sorts of things. It's not exactly, it's like pro-white type left, pro-white liberals, pro-white left, whatever you want to call it.
So
all right.
basically socialism, but for nationalists.
Yeah, like I said, it's very autistic. It was just a joke, man.
Just a joke. It's just memes.
It's just cat gang.
We're just making jokes. That's all.
Critical Aryan theory. Come on.
None of this is real.
It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
Fucking A.
But there is like a gem of, you could see how there would be, we could get some useful stuff out of it, in theory. As long as it didn't descend into degenerate hell, which it probably would.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Okay, I was making mention, or I lost my train of thought, but that's because I'm tired and I can't think clearly at the moment, which is a bummer because this is fun. Hey,
I had a question, man.
Yeah.
Jonathan said he is back in the States.
Yeah. I keep meaning to email him because I've got some free time right now, so I need to I wanna go and have a burger with Jonathan. Can go.
I think it would be awesome if Jonathan taught critical Aryan theory.
That'd be funny. There's some local colleges down where he is. I'm sure we could find a position somewhere. Be great. But yeah, I just wanted to make mention that I think I'm going to have to call the stream in about 15-20 minutes. I just wanted to announce that ahead of time so that I'm not being rude later on.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what book are you on now? Or is it still that same one from a few weeks ago?
No. At the moment, I'm on a book that's about Purim.
Okay.
So
what are you just doing sections, not the whole thing?
Well, Purim is not the Talmud, so this is unrelated. Okay, it's not the Talmud.
Oh, but it's a different book.
Yeah, the Talmud is basically legal findings that are based on the Torah, as where the book of Esther is. I know it's the Tanakh. It might be the Torah, but I know that it's part of the Tanakh.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I'm going to get back to the Talmud at some point. It's just that on a whim, I decided to check out a book about Purim. So that's the only reason that I've been streaming about Purim recently, is because I happened to get it. There's a website that has the Talmud on tap, and you can just search for things, but it's kind of a weird website to search through. So I
I feel like an old man, but I like books. I actually like reading books, so I may end up just going back to the website and letting that be its own thing. That said, I have stumbled upon a few interesting things here and there. I can't think of any of them because I'm just too tired, but yeah, the Talmud is out of control, man. Out of freaking control. And the only reason that I am interested, because there's an esoteric reason for my interest that I don't want to go into at the moment, but it's for a project that I'm working on, and so there's like a self-serving element to it, and the others that I really think that we should be, because that whole thing about, know thy enemy, understand their decision making, understand their thought patterns. I think that we do need to have just generally a culture of critique with regards to what we're up against. I think we need to understand what the thought patterns are, and what better way to do it than to read their own words. So
I have a weird question, man.
I have a weird answer.
Do you think it's important to pursue self-mastery before you start studying your enemy?
No. I think that both need to be done in tandem.
In tandem, you say?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I have a bit of concern for people acting out in ways without really understanding themselves. Like the whole concept of like kind of confused, angry, frustrated, impatient, impulsive, that kind of...
Yeah, I do actually have some problems with that myself. That's a thing that I've been working on for the past couple of years. Patience, yeah. So
I think there is some amount of discipline required before you start, staring at the horrors of the world, so to speak. I don't know. Maybe that's too Jordan Peterson-y. Maybe we just gotta throw people to the fucking wolves and see who makes it out alive.
The thing is that, if you're only concerned with self-mastery alone without understanding why it might even be important, then it's totally meaningless. Sort of like how in academia there are all these like... And even with religion, Bible studies and whatnot, if you don't understand the issues, the theological issues of Old Testament versus New Testament, Judaism versus Christianity, then a lot of the passages just don't make any sense at all. But once you start to really understand what's being said, suddenly, dude,
do you think the Mormons send missionaries into the ghetto?
I wouldn't call my area the ghetto per se, but I will say that they used to send people knocking on doors more often. So I guess the default answer is no.
No lambs to the slaughter.
Fewer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I find that interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I would say that we're really behind the curve right now, and the idea of engaging in self-mastery is on its own without anything else going on sounds great, but the problem is that like we don't, on a net level, I don't have time to just engage in one thing or the other. It's not good to be juggling multiple things at the same time, but it's just that, dude, I want to know what's going on. I can't form plans if I don't know what's going on, and I can't, because there's an entire minefield of crazy bullcrap that's going on right now. And the fact that I didn't even understand any of this until I mean, not on a deep level, on a superficial level, in the Lolbertarian way. I understood some of this stuff all the way up into 2014, but I didn't get a really deep understanding until like 2017, when I accidentally red-pilled myself. So I feel like I'm behind the curve. I'm trying to play catch up, so I'm in a peculiar situation where it's like, okay, but I can only do what I can do, And
Step 1, identify the problem.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? A scientific method. Observe a phenomena, formulate hypotheses on what might cause that phenomena, and then from there go on to testing. I'm still in the because I'm still trying to understand the phenomena around me. I'm still in the hypothesis and testing stage, alternately, depending on what I'm looking at. So it's a real pain in the ass.
Everybody's went through it, going through it, still going through it, man.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah, I reasoned, like last year, that this is going to be a generations-long problem. We're not going to solve this in my lifetime at all. Half the reason that I want to get wifed up and, God willing, have some kids is because I would like there to be more people on our team in the future. So,
You know what I think helps a lot? Okay. It's to know when to hold them and to know when to fold them.
That doesn't make any sense. Settle down.
If you're gonna draw and you're gonna draw first, you better do it faster than the other guy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, they kind of have the jump on us, though. I mean, on a net level right now, they've got the jump on us. So we're in the underdog position. We're absolutely in the underdog position right now. Anyway.
Well, it's a good thing we all pay taxes. Am I right, guys?
Yeah. I thought about this the other day, and I've got another 5-10 minutes in me, I think. I thought about this the other day, and it really pissed me off. Just out of nowhere, I realized that we are paying taxes for our own replacement, our own demographic. We are funding our own genocide, basically. Something about that.
Look at all the TV channels, man.
Yeah, it just really bothered me when I noticed that. When I put it in those phrase, or in that phrasing, it really upset me.
Huh. I wonder if any taxpayer dollars went to creating that smart meat.
I wouldn't.
Soy meat.
Well, okay, there was actually on NPR today, they did an entire segment. There were two chicks that were giggling and guffawing over Impossible Burgers and Beyond Burgers, which is this new vegetable substitute for meat, and they were talking about how it totally tastes like the real thing. I was mortified when I heard it. And here's the worst part of it, though. Here's the worst part. There are some people that I know. Okay, one guy. There's a guy that I know. He's a vegan because he has this hyper rare disease that disallows him the ability to eat animal products. So he has to be vegan because he'll die if he eats meat or cheese. It's a sucky situation. For a person like that, I'm completely down with soy burgers or whatever, the Impossible Burgers. I don't care. And those people that do it for the Nassims of the world that don't like animal cruelty, I completely understand that as well. But these people, I swear to God, and I know you guys agree with me on this, but it's like the programming. They're trying to convince us to eat fucking bugs now. They want us to eat bugs and vegetables only. I mean, it's the creepiest thing in the world, and they're laughing about it on NPR right now.
Dude, have you seen that movie? It's like a Japanese movie, I think, but not really. I don't know. It's like a train. I think it's like Frostbreaker or something like that.
Yeah, I know the one. It's Korean.
Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Snowpiercer. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I saw that.
How they're eating like bugs. They eat bugs and like ground up people. And...
Yeah, welcome to Los Angeles, buddy.
I saw a very interesting theory that movie was actually a sequel to Willy Wonka. And
I saw that same video. That was the funniest thing I saw all week. I loved it.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
That's the only reason why I don't feel black-pilled, is because there are these weirdos that make stupid videos about silly bullshit that I love, and that's a great example of the kind of silly bullshit that I love. So
I saw a younger white boy. You know, he's not quite a teenager yet, but he was watching a YouTube video of like kids doing lightsaber like fight moves. It's pretty awesome.
that's pretty weird. Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I used to when I was blue pilled, I used to go on like deep dives into YouTube, and strangely some of my favorite things were commercials from other countries, because commercials in other countries are just weird, like really, really weird.
To me, man, even if it's in the most soyed up form possible,
yeah,
the idea of young white boys enjoying violence in entertainment is something that always like gives me hope, you know?
Yeah. Oh my god, because even as a blue-pilled normie, those were always my favorite. Like, I would create these giant, because it was back in the 80s, and this is just all that we had, but I really did have a bunch of those green army men, and I had, Legos and Transformers and just whatever the hell was around during the 80s, and I would create these huge dioramas in my room, like freaking, like the bed itself would be like a cliff, and they'd be having wars against each other and whatnot. God, I miss that. I wish I was still silly enough to do such things. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Hell yeah, man. We used to make like catapults in the neighborhood and like launch water balloons and like
Nice.
you know, balled up sap.
Nice.
Try and get it in people's hair.
Yeah. Oh man.
Good
Yeah,
times.
That's actually
Man,
one of
being
the.
a kid's great.
That's one of the reasons why I want kids, is because like I miss that kind of bullshit. I love that kind of stuff, and that would give me an excuse to engage in that. So that'd be cool. Anyway.
Well, with critical Aryan theory, you could just identify as a 14-year-old. And
Oh god, no, I
go
can't
play
handle that. I
Go play
can't.
paintball or something.
Oh my god, dude! I read. Okay, no. This is a bit much. I actually read an entire Reddit post.
Whoa, dude!
It was like
Whoa.
a full page long, and this Reddit post was about a girl. I can only imagine she was in either high school or college. I have no idea which, and she was saying that she and her friends had a trans girl friend. Okay, and they invited. She was I'll use the pronouns because for the moment, because it's amusing. She was male to female, and so this clique of girls. Okay, now I'll switch over to guy or dude. This clique of girls, they invited this dude over to like a slumber party or something, because one of them broke up with her boyfriend or whatever, and the dude was like, oh, thank you for recognizing me as the girl that I've always felt that I am, and so on. And the girls were like, yeah, totally, we're inclusive and diverse or something. And so they went to their slumber party or whatever, and apparently this dude, like, he immediately started creeping out on them. He tried to initiate a pillow fight. you know, because he thought that that would be, and like she even said, the chick who wrote this post, she was even saying that this guy, he had this this concept of a slumber party that involved like making out and pillow fights and shit, and he tried to do, he even mentioned the makeout game and asked when they were going to do it, and he tried to make sexual innuendos with them and whatnot, and he ended up like flipping his lid, and like all the girls decided to leave except for like one who stayed, because like he was just there because he was like in the next town over, so he had no place to go. She felt bad, she didn't want to kick him out or whatever. I would have kicked him out.
What the fuck?
So he stayed with these two girls. When they woke up, he was apparently he was high on cocaine too. When they woke up, he was clanging and banging around in the kitchen naked, making breakfast or something, and he ended up yelling at them something about how I'm the only one with the balls to show my pussy. And you're like, wait a minute, hold the fucking phone, buddy. Anyway, apparently this completely disturbed all of the girls totally, and they want nothing to do with this guy anymore. So interestingly, I think that there is a natural red pilling. I don't know why I thought of this. For some reason, this concept just came to mind again for some reason, because I'm only half awake. But anyway, I do think there is a natural red pilling that's occurring, so I'm actually quite optimistic these days.
It does suck that in order for a lot of these people to get red pilled, they do have to like be exposed to dangerous situations.
Yes. This is
Like,
one of my major
goddamn.
problems.
Did none of these girls have a fucking father, dude? Good God.
Yeah, like, because I would hear that, and yeah, exactly. My first thought pattern would be, okay, how many slugs do I need to handle this? You
Right.
know?
What's his address?
Exactly. How do I make this situation be not this situation anymore? What do I do to remedy this and ensure that this never happens again? You know, and of course, you know, my if it was my own daughter, she'd be grounded for like a year and a half straight. But
Okay, that reminds me, dude. I saw a great meme that was like the levels of white anger ranked. Okay, so this is from least to most. All right.
yeah,
Son of a gun. All right, bucko. You just hold your horses. Well, now just wait a minute. Newsflash, pal. And then then it shows a picture of, you know, a knight, and it says Deu's fault.
yeah, that's
course.
basically where I am.
Well.
Yeah,
We go to Newsflash, pal. It's Deu's fault.
dude, no, that's I've seen that even in myself. Like, I'll be completely calm and totally fine, and then just out of nowhere, I'm seeing red, you know, and I'm thinking about life decisions and what I shouldn't be doing with myself, you know.
Right.
It's awful.
Like, man, I don't know what happened. All my critical thinking skills were there. Then I saw that dude hit that white girl, and it just went all red.
I got triggered. I don't know what happened, buddy. Yeah, it's kind of the case. Actually, I genuinely do think that's the case, because I've seen a lot of guys do that too. They just go white knight out of nowhere. It's weird. Anyway.
It's natural, normal, and healthy.
Yeah, and I'm because I think that we're actually getting close to Newsflash, pal. I think we're getting close to that. Seriously. Because I was at like hold the phone, boyo. That's where I've been for like most of 2018. Ove was mentioning that I was like super soft on Juliet, and yeah, sure, I guess I was soft on Juliet, and I spent most of 2018 basically saying, hey there now, you know.
All we're saying is give peace a chance.
Yeah. And now basically I'm like, well, actually, fucking 1095, man. Let's make it happen.
I mean, when they're declaring war on grandma and grandpa, you know, there's lines that you just don't fucking cross.
Well, no, it's worse than that, because it's not just grandma and grandpa. they're actually condemning their own. This incenses me. This genuinely bothers me. They are condemning the white progressive boomers. They are condemning their own children and grandchildren to a life of difficulty because they're going to be despised minorities in their own countries. They're doing it to their own children. That fucking incenses me. That drives me up the wall. So it's like,
man, I think a lot of boomers get red pilled by the quality of care for end of life procedures when it comes to their own parents. At least I mean, dude, the amount of elder abuse that occurs in this country is appalling, and the people doing it are, you know, the connection is pretty easy to make, especially if you get into reading about these horror stories of the retirement facility network throughout the country. It's incredibly fucked.
I've seen the
It's
videos.
like so horrifying. Most people don't even want to talk about it, man. They just,
Dude.
it's like too scary.
Well, there's that one chick. She was like in her 90s or some shit, and like she couldn't. Like there's some kind of an issue where she needed some kind of attention or whatever, and like as she was dying, they were laughing at her. And it's like, good God.
Yeah, fuck, man.
Yeah.
The amount of theft and just neglect and abuse is pretty fucked.
No, this is one of the reasons why, amongst the many reasons why I've got to get out of Los Angeles. It's just too weird here, and it's gonna get like formally dangerous. So,
Are you saying you don't want Somali nurses in your government-ran retirement facility?
Oh my God, dude, I forgot about that.
What are you paying taxes for, bro?
Okay, no,
Come on, man.
dude. All right, so I was making mention of how, and I'm definitely burning this stream, but whatever. I was making mention of how I was in the hospital a couple of years back, and one of the nurses was an African, like boat African, still had the accents and everything, and I had that exact experience. There was actually an instance in which there was a particular thing that I needed done, and I kept she was like the only, she wasn't she wasn't one of the nurses, she was like a nurse helper or something. I forget what do they call this again? Not intern, god damn it.
RNs?
Yeah, like an orderly. I don't know.
NA? Nurse assistant? I don't fucking know, dude.
Yeah, I
I'm so
forgot.
Talmudic now.
Anyway, the point is that she was one of those people that was basically a helper, and I kept ringing the bell, and she was like one of the only people at that specific time, and everyone else was busy because it was like a busy time of day for some reason, and she wouldn't come through, and like I almost had like a really bad incident because she was just blithely sauntering along, and I was like, dude, pick up your fucking feet, bro. Like I need help. Like I can't do things right now. Help me. That's
fucking
literally
awful,
your job. You know, and it's like once I experienced that, like, dude, that was one of the big events in my red pilling. That was when I formally became racially aware, was when my life was in the hands of someone that simply didn't give a flying fuck.
Ugh, it sucks that that's what it takes, dude. It really does.
Yeah, so it goes.
It's like maybe with the rise and spread of our like racially conscious propaganda, maybe we can prevent some of that going forward, but man, until we have some institutional backbone, it's going to be difficult to like propagate that. So I still unfortunately think that it's through trauma, essentially, that, you know, either minor or big, doesn't have to be severe.
I think it's going to require major trauma. As black-pilled as this might sound, I think it's going to require Haitian levels of violence somewhere in order to really get people to understand what's going on.
I just saw. Oh God, I don't even. We should just wrap it up, man.
Yeah,
There's
actually,
so
yeah,
many
because
horror stories.
yeah, I'm already getting tired, and I don't want to end on a bad note. I would much rather end on a good note, because I do actually think that we're going to be fine in the long term.
I mean, as long as you get out of LA,
Yeah,
I think you'll be fine.
I get the fuck out of here, man. It's crazy here. Yeah. Anyhow,
My bad, guys. Apparently the Wignats are still still upset. You know that. Oh my God, why is OV on this stream? You know.
well, I like to talk to people. I can't help it. You're a people, and I like talking to you, so it's just the way that it is. Anyhow, I'm going to call stream, and before I do that, I'd like to go through just a couple of things. I'd like to give you guys the mic for just a moment. If there's anything you guys want to plug, by all means, please. OV first, then Faustian Spirit.
Well, yeah. If you guys want to give me shit in the chat, or maybe if you want to. Come on and you think you can show me how I'm wrong about how I've handled the past month or so. You all know my channel, Fratelli di Europa. Meet me there.
You make it sound like you're calling out people to a fight or something, like at the schoolyard. It's fun.
No, I'm just responding to my adoring fans in the chat.
It's just funny. It's just funny. Anyhow, okay, and Faust, is there anything that you wanted to plug?
Plug?
Yeah.
My goodness. I'm intending, hopefully, if plans work out, intending to return to the regular Wednesday evenings on House of Faust. Hopefully, occasionally some of the Friday ones. I've been pretty consumed by some of the events occurring in the real world, and that's been great. And it's been good to see people involved, and hopefully more as time goes on, more and more people get involved. I had a recent spike. I don't know from where. I got a bunch of emails over the course of a day of people interested in getting their name on the ballot.
Nice.
Even on something small, and yeah, it's been good, man. I've been encouraged by the amount of people interested in pursuing local politics.
That's outstanding news.
Yeah, I know some people are so black-pilled they can't. And I don't know. My final thought is just, it is a difficult thing we are up against in many ways, on many levels, and they are constantly shifting and adapting and attacking and defending in ways we can see and ways we can't see. And I just hope that people stay encouraged and don't get distracted by meaningless bullshit. That's all. Thanks for having me on.
Oh
It's
no,
always
thank
great.
you very much for popping on. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd like to do a couple of daytime streams in the not too distant future. So if you happen to be around, obviously you are invited. So there you go. And go ahead and stick around. I mean, if you'd like to, anyway. I'm gonna keep the chat. Or rather, I'm going to keep the Hangout open, so for just a couple of minutes of chit-chat afterwards. But anyway, I'm going to now call stream. So we are now going to, let's see here, I have to go through all the process of it. I'm going to mute, going to mute. All right, cheers, guys. And we are going to transition. All right, there we go. Yeah, I want to go ahead and thank OV and Faustian Spirit for popping by. I'd like to thank the chat also for popping by. I didn't actually go through and read what was going on in the chat. My understanding is there was a little bit of a back and forth. In general, I'd like to ask that we refrain from personal attacks, no Fed posting, and all this good stuff in the future. I'm gonna have to be a little more on top of that. I mean, nothing personal by it. I just want this to be as close to a pleasant place to hang out as possible. I like a chilled environment, at any rate. Thank you, everyone, for popping by. I really do appreciate it. And tomorrow I'll be getting back to the book on Purim. So today was a nice and pleasant diversion, what with Faust popping by. So again, thank you very much to Faust and OV. And I guess that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and, even though I didn't do any case streaming, I think it's only right that I reinforce that I absolutely do believe in our God-given rights to self-defense as enshrined in the Constitution. And sadly, it's under attack at the moment. Little can be done about that. However, I do believe in flexing those civil liberties, and if you're going to flex those civil liberties, I do think that it's very important to treat these tools, firearms, like the tools that they are, with respect. And so, safety and handling. What are the 4 rules of firearms safety? Rule number 1, always treat every firearm like it is loaded. Rule number 2, never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3, your finger stays off of the trigger until your sights are on target. And the 4th and final rule is be aware of your target and what's beyond it. Safety first. And with that, I hope everyone has a good evening. Remember to brush and floss, and I'll see everyone in the chats.